Yeah, and I think really that was one of the strats that Hokori were running pretty much every single time. You get El Misho win, you feel super confident in a lot of different situations. Of course, you were pairing it with the Mars, but I think they really wanted this Monkey King, and thus they rushed it just a little bit too fast. And that's where, even though this isn't necessarily one of the heroes you think of immediately when you think of Flea, he's going to be very obnoxious. He's going to be playing in those tree lines, and now almost double downing a little bit by picking up Gardeck, his fabled tree and protector. Gardeck loves this hero so much. It's very obnoxious to deal with. Unfortunately, it does do damage now. The ulti, they made it better, but made it a little bit worse versus Tide, because of course you're going to proc that Kraken Shell. He's going to be able to ignore you just that little bit more. But it's another strong partner for that monkey, and we talk about persistent spells. You have that Nature's Grasp that you're going to put on top of that Tide Hunter, and there's nothing that Kraken Shell can do for you in that regard. So just making that lane a little bit worse. And Amisho's running back again with the Rubik. I don't think he was necessarily the reason why that bottom lane was kind of unsuccessful, but at the end of the day, that lane, Doom Rubik, just didn't have very much potential into the Undying. I think it's going to be the same situation where he's going to be chased around by the Undying in those early stages. Devi's not going to let him play his support job too freely. But now you have a Mars to pair with it. Now you have a little bit more of that early game damage. Even though later on they might have a little bit more damage problems, early on, I think they're going to be able to deal with this Undying a lot better.
That was kind of the issue of Vitaly on the Doom, was you are still intimidating, but you don't really have the ability to actually keep an enemy in front of you. The Mars instead gives them maybe more tools to work with. So we'll see if they try to play it aggressively. I assume that they would want to, because regardless of what they actually pick up for Yuma on the D2 Hustler side, you pretty much know where it's going to lane. And if the Mars Rubik duo can slow down that carry in any capacity, then it is a play that you have to try to make. The question is, though, what will Yuma play? And as of right now, it's basically anything other than the gyro. So in that regard, ET, if you're D2 Hustlers, you can just sit on this carry pick. You don't even necessarily have to go for it here on the back end of phase 2. You could kick the can down the road, and sure, Hokori could take out some extra options, but not too many. But Hustlers, okay, fair enough. You want the Morphling, you take the Morphling. Don't even take the chance that it gets banned away. And Yuma is on one of his most comfortable possible choices.
Yep, a hero that really is terrifying to play against. Not just that, both of your supports don't really have that much defense versus him. It's a very similar situation where you're going to be victims of the Yuma morph. You're going to be targets that he's going to look to blow up. In addition to that, Monkey King, a hero that really needs to get set up and needs to play front first. If you don't react appropriately with your BKB, with your ultimate, then again, it's in very similar vein to why so many teams were picking up the Morphling versus the Luna, where you kind of blow her up before she wants to use her BKB, and then she's a 500 HP Luna rocking around with BKB on in a fight that she can't necessarily win. So it's a very obnoxious hero pick, and one that I think is going to continue to be very valued or banned out. That's the simple solution, is just don't let anybody play it, because it is that kind of obnoxious to go into any of these team fights. Not just that, they've got Morphling Undying. That lane's amazing. Every single time you feel like you're going to get harassed out, well, shift down, get soul ripped, back to lane. It just feels like there's no way to really push this morph down even more so. And it's an even better lane because you should be a little bit more slower paced than the PA that we saw in that last one. So we'll have to see what they're actually able to accomplish here, if it's going to be another rough one for Almisho and Vitali, or if they're actually going to be able to get a little bit aggressive, because pre-level 3, this Morphling can die. Post that, I don't really think so, at least until we see maybe something more active from Sooths.
Yeah, it would just be incredibly difficult for them to make the play happen, but okay. We were looking for maybe an active hero for Seuss. The Queen of Pain certainly fits the bill there. Of course, you always have to be a little bit careful. Anytime you take that Queen of Pain, it is sort of the epitome of the glass cannon sort of playstyle in D2 Hustlers. It's not a massive amount of lockdown, but it is still there for them. If the Queen of Pain tries to play aggressively, especially with that blink, then you could put yourself in a bad way, and Hustlers would be well positioned to then punish it as they go in for the Ask Ember Spirit again. So, I mean, he ran away with it in game 1. Queen of Pain's a slightly different matchup this time around, and well, I don't really think that matters. I mean, Esk went into a matchup that was supposed to not favor him in game 1 and still came out ahead, so it really just seems like whoever you put Susan in front of him, Esk is just going to very much relish the challenge.
Yeah, and I think really the biggest change up in this game could be that we might see El Misho dip from Vitaly a little bit more, maybe make a few more appearances in the mid lane, try to mirror Flea, because that mid lane was pretty bad until Esk said, hey, we can kill him if I have one hero. Then Flea immediately picked up the call to action. He's the one that really turned that mid lane into pure recovery for Esk in a game that, as we were seeing kind of befall for us right now, is very free for him. If he can get off the ground, then there isn't really a good answer for Hokori just yet. Of course, once S gets that BKB, that's going to be the real timing where he just kind of walks away with the entire game. But before that, it's going to be a slow start. That's where these fours are really going to need to come into play for both sides, because a few too many bottle refills from Flea, a few too many stacked camps, a few too many power shots onto suits, and then suddenly this Queen of Pain Ember matchup looks a lot more even, and then Esk looks a whole lot better on the entire map. Not to mention, picked up another hero to hunt down this Monkey King in the trees, so this, at the very least, is not going to be a very free Monkey game, so you almost feel like Suits needs to pick up the weight a little bit along there with Vitali.
Yeah, they're going to be relying quite a bit more on him, which honestly is part of the reason why you take the Queen of Pain. Everybody hopes for that sort of snowball that we've seen from the hero, because when that does happen, Queen of Pain is frankly terrifying. But if you miss the mark really only a couple of times with the Queen of Pain's rotations, then things get a little bit more awkward for them. So
could eat a walrus.
see how it goes here. Sooth's going to have to bear a lot of the burden until the likes of ADRX will be built up, and well, it's a shot at redemption, right? Because in game one, it didn't quite go the way that they thought that it would, to some kind of rough results. But game two offers them the chance to reset. We'll see what they do here. 5-man smoke out. Not really looking for a play, though. Just looking to cross the river early as Sooths gets himself across. Checking for an early ward. Not going to get hit up by the tower here, so should be just fine. Meanwhile, what is this? Hustlers. 4-man movement down bot. That's a very forward obs ward that they throw down there. Question is, do they rotate anywhere else? Anywhere else? They threw down the sentry, but Gardic actually did spot them. He pings it out. That obs ward was able to see that back end of the maneuver. So, well, I don't think they suspect that there's 4 heroes here, but they probably guess that the sentry was put into position to block that camp.
Yeah, they just don't want to, I think, throw away anything. They get some nice wards, they get some good vision. Nobody on Hokori is really in a position to die here. Not just that, don't have any nighttime heroes either, so not like anyone's getting up to too much fishy business, but 2 for 2. No one's going to be upset.
I just really want to see exactly what the Hustlers' game plan is with this ward. This is obviously a position we have seen before, but normally when the ward's up here, you're looking for a little bit more aggression. Maybe not a gank, but just the ability to hit more consistently with Flea. He's going to have the power shot, so I mean, I don't want to see him just take shots at it, really. He's got the Blightstone up, and
His build's weird.
wait a minute.
He's
Yeah,
got a
hold on.
very interesting build. He's got an Orb of Venom flying out as well. He's really just valuing the idea that this is a double melee lane, so ideally they never hit me ever. So we'll have to see if he makes it work. They've done a pretty good job of cutting down a lot of the trees down here as well. Of course, he didn't use any of that mana to cut it down. That's just Monster being very proactive with his Quelling Blade, but we'll have to see, because if they can make this lane look even a little bit even, then Monster is going to be incredibly pleased. That's why he went the Gush level 1 as well, because he knows that if he can keep Gardic away from him, then the Monkey King is probably not getting on top of him either, and they're already getting the lane in a pretty nice position for them.
And now Gardic figuring out there's no pull there. Camp got blocked off, so not going to be able to really pull anything back, and Flea will just continue to try and harass as much as he possibly can. Even took the Wind Run at level 1. I just always kind of love that play too, because if ADRX tries to push forward, your only target is Monster. If you try to get onto Flea, you're not hitting anything, you're not getting any Jingu stacks up. And, well, without that Jingu, a lot of the advantage of the Monkey King here and what's supposed to be him versus a melee core gets taken away. So, I like what D2 Hustlers are doing here so far. Obviously, ADRX is still farming. They're not going to shut him down by any means, but just trying to make it, as you said, just sort of a little bit more even. Although ADRX has pushed forward for the Jingu there. He is going to be able to get the bonus, and he does have the Boundless. So at this point, he should be okay. He'll have the sustainability to work with. Gardic even hits him up there with the Living Armor. So none of this damage coming out from the D2 Hustler side will really stick.
Yeah, and this really is just all to move past the fact that this is a pretty hard counter. And honestly, they're doing a really good job of keeping things calm, keeping things quiet. Of course, ADRX is going to be able to push in more and more consistently for that Jingu, but it's still just get the ranged creep, and then we don't really care about the rest of the wave, even though Monster is CSing really nicely. He really hasn't gotten too many denies out from underneath him, and really, once he gets that ring of health, then you get to ignore the matchup, which is the biggest part of every offlaner right now.
Just looking for that early pickup. Meanwhile, over on the other side of the map, you see Vitaly. He has queued himself up that armlet. So we did see that earlier today from Frank. Obviously, the situation was slightly different because he had the IO there to sort of help him out as well, but the build still very much something he's looking for. You get that sort of extra damage and durability in a lot of situations, and you can be maybe a little bit more punishing, especially on someone like the Morphling. If Yuma is sort of manipulating the stats more towards Agi, then your Mars hits you with more damage than you were initially suspecting, and that could be a punishing play. But obviously, the build up towards the armlet is quite a bit longer for the Mars.
Yeah, and really, it's because you don't have the best armor on that hero. You could get a Ring of Health, but then it's really a casual Ring of Health until you could maybe want a Hood of Defiance. It is just better in every single way, and 25 gold really didn't change a whole much, so we'll have to see, but...
Yeah. Middle lane Esk is really playing forward there. Sleight of Fist onto Sooths was...
Oh, trying to bait him.
Okay.
Nice blank.
Smart from Sooths. Just back out. There's no play to be made there, right? No bottle charges or anything, so... It does force him to maybe miss out on a wave, but certainly beats the alternative in giving up that first blood. But Seuss was able to fall back. He gets the bounty rune up, so that keeps him in the lane. But now for the power...
Is he gonna do some psycho stuff?
Oh my god.
Yeah.
Okay. And Esk, he decides he doesn't really want the fight after all. He'll TP back to the tower and pick up a water rune of his own. So, I mean, that felt risky, but honestly, Seuss knew what he was doing. He knows that sort of blink range, and it works out well for him. And this is basically a reset. Everyone was able to sort of pick up one of those runes. Seuss, though, immediately taking that damage as S tries to push forward with the Flame Guard, and that is going to force out the Living Armor. But that's always something Seuss will sort of have to fall back on. I don't know if the Living Armor is enough for him to just straight up say, okay, I will fight Esk now, but you make the Ember Spirit maybe think a little bit more when he wants to go in if you have that extra healing.
Yeah, and unfortunately, this is one of the matchups that all the way back when Flame Guard at early levels got buffed to absorb just that little bit more magic damage, there isn't a good way for Sooths to actually break the shield. So he has to go for the 2-1-2, has to go for the harass build, and he's been missing a lot of his daggers. It's just been good slight dodges from Esk, but this matchup is honestly not looking bad at all for him. He is pretty big on this Ember already, and he's got his boots way faster than he did have in the previous game. So I can only imagine what's going to happen if he gets something in his bottle this game.
He's got the boots. Seuss did just hit level 6, though, so he's got that Sonic Wave, and maybe he looks to make a play. Mid against Esk is going to be a little bit rough, but could look to move elsewhere as El Misho. Okay. Jumps in with Vitaly. There's that aggression we were sort of waiting to see, talking about this duo in the draft. They can't do a whole lot to Yuma directly, but the Undying is a much easier target for them, especially an Undying with no Tombstone yet. Went for the sort of 2 points in the Soul Rip, looking for more of that defensive capability, which hard to blame him for. He can just keep on healing up Yuma as we see right there, but it does leave him more vulnerable to attack.
Yeah, it just means that he's going to be playing with less resources. Of course, Yuma does have the Morbid Mask, so Yuma is his own resource now, but it's still becoming more difficult for him to approach the wave, and you're always going to be scared of a TP you're not aware of coming in from the Queen of Pain, and then that Sonic Wave coming into full effect. At the same time, if you look at bottom, Monster is also just completely ignoring everyone now, even though they're trying to catch him now. He doesn't have boots, so the rat is going to get caught.
ADRX jumps in. They'll get the Jingu.
A very long kill, but I think they got it.
Yeah. Monster can't afford to go for the TP because the Boundless is being held. So really, this is the least exciting kill we've ever seen, but ADRX gets it. Boundless comes in with the Jingu back up. Monster falls, and Hokori able to put 2 on the board here early on, and well, things are looking pretty good here. Last hit-wise, you see all 3 of their cores hanging out near the top. That mostly carries over to the net worth outside of outside of the Queen of Pain, which is a bit of an issue. Zeus is a little bit further down there, but you would assume now is the time when that Queen of Pain is going to start maybe getting a little bit more aggressive, try to make use of the Sonic Wave. And if she can find one or two, really, plays at this point, that's going to get her right up there with the other core heroes. And speaking of those other core heroes, Vitaly makes the move top. Arena into Spear, Divine Llama gets taken down. Yuma says no thanks, don't want to be involved. And they will find their third straight pick.
Yeah, and yet again, they're just getting aggressive. They're just moving across the map. That's as soon as he gets level 6, he makes the play onto the Undying, and Yuma is getting a lot of his creeps denied. He doesn't really have that easy walk up to the wave, and that's where I think swapping Vitaly over to the Mars is just really nice. It's a really fantastic choice.
Just giving him that sort of more freedom to work with, and we talked about it a little bit in Game 1 with the Doom, how Vitaly always just seems to play better and more comfortably on those heroes who can afford to be more active, and Lamar is certainly more active than the Doom to this point, or at least more successful, as middle lane-esque. He thought about it, tracking down El Misho, looking for the Rubik, but when he sees Sooths, as well as Gardic there, that's his cue to sort of back away, but El Misho, well, not really sure what he's looking for here. He's in a good position to ward if he had any, but doesn't actually have any in his inventory right now, so instead, we're looking for a play here onto Yuma. El Misho sort of hiding in the tree line, but not really going to be able to make that play happen. Sooths would have to blink in and get the Sonic Wave off, and they would have had to catch him with the telekinesis before he could do any attribute shifting, which is really way too many is for them to play with. But meanwhile, what is going on over here? Monster's going to run into Gardic. ADRX coming in. Can they catch him out again? Yes, they can. Monster, not the same spot, obviously. Pretty much the opposite end of the match, or map, rather, but the same play. Gardic baits it. ADRX comes in, and they find the pick, and they get eyes on what remains of this stacked camp. ADRX isn't going to get too much, but anything you can take away from the other side is certainly going to be worth it, as up in the top lane. Okay, no. Thought Yuma and Devi were going to try to start a fight there. Devi, I believe he did it. Yeah, he did throw down the tombstone in that northern tree line, but by that point, the fight shifts too far away.
Yeah, but Vitaly has his armlet. He's going to start to get aggressive onto this tower as soon as he claims it. Of course, that's where we always talk about the collapse onto the mid lane, and that's where I think both mid laners are getting a little bit antsy here. They've just been sitting away, getting their levels, getting their XP. They're still waiting for one of those aggressive runes. We had an illusion rune a little bit before. Hopefully is just going to, yeah, TP out here. Suits is not that crazy, but...
Wait, back up top. Dragged the camera away for a second, but Vitaly was going in. He drops down the arena into the spear stun. Quick and easy kill onto Devi, who was left alone up there. Meanwhile, mid, fight for the rune. Esk is going to get it. El Misho tries for the lift, and that, I mean, it gets them through the Flame Guard, I suppose. But now, yeah, Yuma comes in for what's going to be an easy kill on to the Rubik. El Misho will fall, and D2 Hustlers, and they're able to get their first kill of the game there. It takes them nearly 10 minutes, but they get that 0 off the scoreboard, and Yuma, nice kill. Right back into the jungle to continue farming, so at least his progression is coming along nicely, but nicely still has him sitting in 3rd overall net worth-wise.
Oh, and then just look top.
Devi's going
Devi's
again.
so much damage. He lost half his HP off of that rebuke.
Yuma's coming in, though. They will actually want the fight. Tombstone thrown down. Vitaly turns around, spears in, and yeah, that play is pretty much broken up. The Mars should just be able to walk away, and at this point, well, maybe he turns back around. El Misho's coming in. You see the Queen of Pain coming up from behind. Zeus using some bottle charges, trying to get ready for some sort of Sonic Wave combo if they can find it, but
They're gonna leave.
Okay, Yuma's out.
Yeah, as soon, that's why they have so much defensive vision placed here. As soon as that Queen of Pain comes up top, anything before that, the 2 deaths on the Vi, let's just call it trading his life for the Colosseum. But as soon as the Quap is going to get involved, you don't want to be there anymore. So it's a really good play from them, just having the vision there to make that correct judgment. And that's where Gardic is going to try to be as annoying as possible for this push in the bottom lane. However, they don't mess around.
ADRX is hit up in the middle lane, but
yeah,
there's the problem. He's got the Wukong's command, so he just turns around, throws that in, and Devi loses his life. Esk just had to back away, and I believe they traded out the tier 1 towers while that was going down. So both teams are able to get a little bit of money there, but kill goes Hokori's way, and where do they go now? They might have some numbers here in the middle lane as Ask. He's trying to fight for the rune. He did get it and immediately jumps out to the Remnant. Quick reaction there as the monkey was coming in onto him.
Yeah, Esk is just so fast. He's done a really good job of that. Gets a nice little bottle refill as well. It's the one nice thing about your supports dying.
Where do they go from here? Feels like, honestly, at this point, both teams really do want to sort of pick up the pace a little bit, play a more up-tempo style, but well, for the most part, it's been Hokori who's been picking up the kills, and may see another fight. Sooth is sort of coming up from the south. El Misho hanging out behind him. Will Esk make his move. He tries to go in there. Searing Chains hit onto the Centaur, so they're not going to get the lockdown, but they do still have the Gush onto Vitaly. They're going to try to make a move onto him. They throw down the arena into the Ravage even, just to make sure they can get this. Vitaly, though, he made him work for it. Actually, he had the armlet. Didn't really toggle it there. Not really sure if it would have saved him, but without it, he does get taken down. But ADRX and El Misho trying to get in on the back line. They take down Flea. The problem is, this is going to cost him pretty heavily. El Misho dies, and ADRX is needing to get out, or maybe he's not. Sooth's coming in. Sonic Wave deployed. Esk is the one to die. And now Devi... Can ADRX catch up to him? Primal Spring gets him forward. Sooth will blink in as well. Devi still not dead, though. And they miss with the Boundless. Does he actually... He might just live. Seuss, at this point, kind of might want to just consider backing out, but screams back up in 1 second. He tries for it. He misses, and Devi will get out as Seuss just TPs home, but they still take the fight that they wanted, to be honest. They lose a couple of heroes, but they were able to take down Esk, and unfortunately, Yuma was not involved in that fight. He's just sort of farming up. So if you're D2 Hustlers... As much as it sucks to lose Esk, if it means the Morphling is farming, I think you are going to be kind of okay with that trade-off.
Yeah, and you're asking when do these teams want to get aggressive? As soon as ADR finished that Echo Saber, I was wondering why he was kind of shadowing Flea in the mid lane. Well, it's because he wants to get aggressive, and he chased that wind all the way over towards the fight breaking out. It sucks to lose Vitaly like that, because you're also playing into your opponents. They wanted to use Ravage. I think Vitaly definitely was a little bit too far up in the top lane, but at the same time, I think that Hokori, now knowing that there isn't that Ravage, should be able to take away this mid tower, at least put a lot more pressure on it. They still need to be scared of diving, of course. It is very hard to kill these heroes whenever Devi is able to sync up, but are they really trying for Monster? Well, Vitaly misses Spear.
They
I
are
guess
trying
3 cores,
for
though.
it. Yuma's going after El Misho on the other side of the map, but will turn things top as Monster is very, very low, but he's not dead yet. Cutting a path through the trees, but okay, the spear is really just going to ruin that plan. Meanwhile, El Misho did get taken down bottom, so 1-for-1 trade, but I mean, Hokori, they get the core kill, and Rubik at that point, I don't really think you care too much about losing him. He had stolen the attribute shift, which is frankly one of my favorite things in Dota. Just go max strength on the Rubik, because what do you really need Agi for? But the extra strength didn't help him survive, and sure, it's a bummer, but your teammates traded you out. They're going to be okay with that trade-off, and now the question for Hokori, what do you do with these numbers? You still got multiple heroes sort of hanging out relatively close to each other. You could look for another play. They don't have the arena for 35, but as long as they can get a slow, a spear stun, anything really onto a singular target, they could make a move, but D2 Hustlers not really presenting that target. They are playing a little bit more carefully. Well, okay, I say that. Monster, that's not quite careful enough. Gets jumped in on. Kraken Shell removes those debuffs, though. That allows him to set up for the Ravage, but Seuss keeps on chasing. Sonic Wave will be deployed, but that may have been a little bit too far forward, and Monster absorbed pretty much all of that damage with the barrier as well. So Sonic Wave goes down. Not much effect. You drew out a Tombstone, I suppose, on the other side, but they don't get the kill that they wanted. Monster survives, and outside of using the Ravage, didn't really have to sacrifice too much. In fact, he's still in position. He and Flea kind of want to get the wraparound play here, and they're going to go for it. They're in onto ADRX. He's going to be forced to use the Wukongs, and this is where things get rough. Can they find the kill now? Well, no. They get the Overgrowth in. They drop the arena as well, so there is zero backup for Monster as he will fall. And now D2 Hustlers kind of on the retreat. Devi and Yuma, though, want to really put together some sort of turnaround, and Esk is going to be able to join them. I'm just not sure it's going to be enough. They've lost Devi. They will get Vitaly in exchange, though, but Yuma starting to get pushed back a little bit here. Esk has to be careful as well. He's starting to run out of remnants, but he will push forward now. Searing Chains comes down, connects onto the supports, and Flea's able to get the snipe down with the power shot that sets him up for another pick onto El Misho. And Seuss, no HP left, has to blink himself back, and D2 Hustlers on maybe the second or third attempt to turn that fight do finally get the result that they wanted, and they will take the victory.
Yeah, it's an incredibly important shackle from Flea, but also the Arcane Rune bottled up from Esk did so much there. He got, what, maybe 5 or 6 slights in that fight? 7 slights off in that fight? That's just ridiculous. I think Yuma also becoming the Mars, having that spear going through for a team that already is so reliant on their very little lockdown, it was just enough. And not just that, you drew the fight away from the tower. So really, it doesn't take all that much damage here. And they have to do something about this mid push here, and the option is actually going to be for them to smoke and look for suits. Oh, they're going to pop though. Oh, that's so unlucky. That's a
Did
timing thing right
Suits...
there.
Does he
No, he
realize that
doesn't
this is
know.
coming? Yeah,
Didn't see
he's...
him, but he's fine,
Ooh.
I think.
Links away,
Oh,
still
hun.
chasing. They spot him out. Zeus is going to blink
Oh,
again. Did Esk?
yeah, he tried for it. He tried for the chains, and because they make that play, they lose the mid tower. That is a really unfortunate timing. If they place the ward beforehand, then simply Yuma just chases him down along with the Ember, but instead, I was really unlucky because you lose your mid tower for nothing. Your opponents have all their spells. You do have Ravage cooling back up, but look at the vision that Hokori placed in that brief period. They know exactly what's going on here.
Much aware of what's coming their way. The question is, how do they want to respond to it? Because they could look for the fight. They've got so much up right now. They've got the overgrowth. They have the Sonic Wave, Arena, and Wukong's Command are all available. And, well, it is going to set them up quite nicely if they do want the fight. For now, though, we see a little bit more of an emphasis on trying to get some of these items up. Zeus is pretty much done with, there it is, with the Orchid. Recipe coming out to him right now. So, more firepower for the Queen of Pain. BKB queued up after that. ADRX, meanwhile, finished his BKB a little while ago. So that teamfight strength for Hokori is already kind of impressive, and it's taking further steps forward. And speaking of BKBs, Vitali, oh, very close to his as well. So all 3 cores on the Hokori side are going to have that magic immunity up and running. And at that point, if you're D2 Hustlers, you are going to have to be very concerned with sort of how you dish out this damage. Yuma is obviously still going to be able to do quite a bit here, but at the end of the day, the Morphling is not exactly a sort of multi-hero hitter, right? He kind of focuses in on one, blows him up first, and then looks for the target after that. So if multiple targets on Hokori have the BKBs at the ready, he's going to have to pick one, and it's still not going to be easy to find the pick-off.
No, definitely not. And I think that's why we do see Hikori pulling ahead just a little bit in the lead. But if they can get set up on these towers, then nice little pushes like Yuma's in the bottom do happen. And someone has to respond here. Unfortunately, it is going to be El Misho trying to catch him before the attribute shift. And that's what they're doing here. They've got the Aether Lens. This is sneaky.
They don't see the TP. Vitali's
What a
in. He's going to
reaction.
throw down the spear. Yuma did get off the shift, though. So yeah, he is going all the way over to strength for the time being. But Gardic pushed his way in. Not going to use the overgrowth just yet, but now the fight's breaking out further to the north. Suits does throw down the Sonic Wave, connecting on a 4, but he needs help. He needs backup. Vitali comes in with a very well-placed spear, but look at that monster blinking in. Ravage onto 4, and everyone on the side of Hokori low on HP. ADRX, though, he's trying to hold the line, popping the Wukongs as well as the BKB. He does manage to get the kill on to Esk. That is absolutely huge for them, and they are going to turn this fight. Monster with nowhere to go gets run down and taken out, and that was a massive ult from Monster. Looked like it was pretty much fight winning, but they needed the follow-up. So many heroes were low on HP, but there was no one there to hit them because the Monkey King's able to sort of push in and bail his teammates out with his own ult.
Yeah, that was good on so many different fronts. Monster with the 4-man, the spear from Vitali clipping Esk out of his remnant, meaning that during that 4-man Ravage, you don't have the Ember Spirit getting his damage in during that time period. So all the sticks get popped, everything gets used, you get the heals off, and then everybody walks away in a sliver of HP. It's just incredibly unfortunate. Yet again, just good playing and good positioning from Hokori. Tower defended, 3 kills, they used Ravage, and even more, they're looking at Flea top. Nice blink, though.
Yeah, Lee's able to get himself out of there. Meanwhile, down bot, I mean, they're looking for Yuma, but Monster's here as well. So at this point, Sooths, I don't think you actually want to do this. He just has to sort of let his teammate die and walk away. So maybe getting a little overly ambitious on that one, especially a Queen of Pain who had no Sonic Wave, actually. Looking at it now, I really don't know what they were hoping to find down there, but all things considered, Sooths is still able to get away, although they're sort of pinging out his location. Yeah, they know. They're jumping in. The sentry's there, but the shackle actually didn't connect, so Zeus is able to walk away for now, but S doesn't want to let him out. There's going to be the Searing Chains, getting him into the fight. He needs backup, though. The rest of the team isn't here yet, and that buys Zeus the time he needs to blink away.
Yeah, as soon as the Monkey King decides to get involved, you have to be scared.
Oh, Monster. This is not an easy
tomb.
target, though. That's the problem. And, oh, they missed the Boundless. I think Monster's still dead, though. Yeah, they're able to take him down, so... all's well that ends well. Cost him a couple of BKB activations, but they find the pickoff, and I believe El Misho... Yeah, he stole and used the Tombstone, so it is on cooldown for a little while, but as long as he can stay alive long enough, that Tombstone in the middle of something like a Wukong's command or an arena is just going to be absolute hell for D2 Hustlers to deal with.
And they're smoking up. They're looking for the play. They know. No BKB.
ADRX, can he get out? Can his teammates get here in time? There's going to be a little bit of nuke damage. They need more, though, and they do manage to get it. He needed to go for the Boundless, I think, maybe before the Wukongs, but either way, he will fall. The Tali trying to push in, looking for the Spear, but he actually gets hit up by Yuma, who morphed into him for a Spear of his own. But at this point, they still have the lockdown. The Overgrowth comes in, S gets taken down, Yuma just has to TP out, but it's canceled by another Spear stun. And this is going poorly. Dabai tried to TP out himself, but he's going to get killed off before his can complete. And if you're D2 Hustlers, it's time to back off. Monster's coming in, but the Ravage at this point, I don't really know if it would be enough to matter because you don't have that follow-up damage from Esk. It would really just be Yuma. So Hustlers have to back off. They do take down ADRX, which was the intention in the first place, but they do give up a couple of kills in exchange that sort of evens that up gold-wise.
Yeah, it's just really good team fight usage from Hokori. I think they were really caught off guard there. I agree with you. I think maybe if he gets the Boundless strike out, he might survive a little bit longer, but being caught in that position without BKB, the smoke was just a little bit too good from D2. But that's also where they were very clean in getting everyone locked down there. Even though he did become the Mars and try to be as obnoxious as he could, this is also your timing before your Ember has BKB. He's not strong yet. If he gets caught by too many things, he is just going to die as he should, and that's where I think D2 Hustlers might need to pace themselves a little bit more here, because once he has it, he is free. He is able to play a lot more aggressively. Of course, he'd love to use it post the Overgrowth, so that way he can purge it off or doesn't need to worry about it in the first place. But that's also where Gardic getting a little bit more farm than he usually does on his 5, because he is playing his probably favorite hero. He just has this Blink Dagger. If he gets to wait until after this Ember uses his BKB, we're going to be in a very real game where Esk BKBs and then just dies to getting right-clicked by the Hokoris on Hokori.
Yuma's got himself the E-Blade online now, though, so that shotgun combo is going to come into play, and
Look at him.
before he gets the chance to fight, oh man, they get the jump onto Esk. Zeus hits him up with the silence. El Misho has the telekinesis in there, and I believe Zeus, yeah, did have to use the Sonic Wave, but that's more than worth it. You take down Esk, and again, yeah, pre-BKB, you always have that vulnerability, and now D2 Hustlers are actually looking to really put together a response. Ooh, okay. A response here. They threw the Tombstone down. That's a little too early at that point, but they snipe out a Courier. They'll take down a Sentry, so at least they're getting a little bit of vision and maybe map control for themselves in this north side jungle, but I think they were looking for a little bit more than that. As it stands, though, it's still going to be okay. You're clearing out space. Yuma can sort of rotate in and work towards his own BKB, and that is going to be a potential game changer if he can sort of pick that one up, because that's really been the Achilles heel for this D2 Hustlers lineup. A lot of their heroes are pushing in like they have the magic immunity before they actually get it. Yuma and Esk have been sort of caught out. Well, actually, Yuma has not been caught out. He hasn't died. Esk's died really a couple of times to those exact sorts of plays, but they're going for the smoke, stopping by the Roche Pit momentarily. Not actually going to go for it, though. They want the fight. But this is going to be rough. It's a tier 1 tower still sitting here. Really, either they go all the way in and they take the fight under the tower, or you try to bail, or not bail, but bait Hokori away from that protection. They can't do either, so let's go after Roche after all.
This is so slick from D2. They almost fake that they know what's going on there. They D-word saying that if you really want to get towards us, you have to smoke at us, and Hokori are going to take the bait. They know exactly what to do, but they made that Roche decision so quick. Not going on Gardic there after they placed the ward, or even making the attempt to go for that dive, is just a really smart play. And then they use their third smoke to try and go for that same pick now. They're just as strong as they were, but when they smoked for the first time, but oh, this is just so smart from D2. Now they just push into the mid tower, and your opponents who were smoked, didn't get anything, and then dispersed, now aren't in a position to defend this mid tower adequately.
Yeah.
Wow, this past min is just so good from them.
I love this place so much. We've seen so many teams fall into that trap. They say, okay, we smoked. We have to take a fight. It doesn't matter what the fight is. Okay, well, fight comes their way anyway as they burn through Yuma's first life, but Monster able to respond with that Ravage, and now that gets the Morphling back into it, but Vitali's able to throw down the arena. Almisho taken down, but they are trading things out here as Devi will go down. Monster now trapped up inside of the Wukong's command. He should be sacrificed at this point, and Hokori, they want to go forward. Look at that. The only tree in the whole damn river, and he gets the spear stun down onto it, but the Gale Force actually preventing them from immediately following it up. So Yuma, he's going to be able to waveform himself out of here. He's looking for the TP home. Gardic needs to be able to cancel it, but he has no means to. So instead, they'll take Flea. It's really the only kill that they had left remaining on the board, but I mean, okay, you don't get Yuma, but you burn through the Aegis instantly. They got about 3 kills. They forced a buyback out from the Undying, and the cost of that play is El Misho's Rubik, and that's it. Actually, that's not it. They did lose a tier 1 tower, technically speaking, but that was going down really either way.
Yeah, and that is so sick yet again. El Misho is the one to start that off. He goes with the lift. It's into the Sonic Wave. It's into everything. And they killed the damage dealer. Everyone else on the D2 Hustler side is so slow with their damage. The shotgun is the fastest thing they have, so even though the Ravage hits onto 3, no one dies. It almost feels like they needed to get out faster. And look, yeah, that's a lot of damage. You want a BKB for 7.
ARX, the Gale Force is going to prevent him from actually running. That's a huge play as they find the kill. They want more. Gardic's going to get caught. Seuss. Searing Chain's up in 1. He's got a BKB, though. Yeah, he's just... I'm out. I'm not handling any of that. He's just going to get away. Vitali, though, may not be as fortunate. He has his own BKB. There we go. He is going to be able to pop it. He avoids that shotgun combo. Now turns around, looking for the spear. The spear actually didn't hit, kind of phasing through some heroes there, and that, unfortunately, may cost Vitali his life. Shackle's going to lock him down, and Devi somehow snipes that out, I think, with maybe a zombie hit. Doesn't really matter, though. Vitali gets taken down, and Hokori, just as quickly as they built momentum with that impressive first fight, that second one goes really poorly for them.
Yeah, it's just simple positioning errors. When you don't have BKB, it was 10 seconds. He had every right to be up there once he had it, but they make the play, they find the kill, and it's, again, just these small timings. Another Gale Force.
Man.
Goodbye, El Misho.
Flea's just so good with these plays right now. We see a lot of the time the Wind Ranger uses the Gale Force as sort of a disruptor in a fight, right? You try and drop it directly on top of heroes to push them in different directions. Flea is using it to basically form a wall, pushing them back into the fight as opposed to trying to break up an already sort of established formation, which, in fairness, there's, you know, benefits to both strategies, but for Flea, it just feels like he's playing so much more aggressively with it than a lot of other position 4 Wind Rangers do.
Yeah, it just is so easy for him to set up as well, because the Shackle hasn't really been landing all the time. He's had some few brutal ones where he's getting 2 targets, but that's where everyone pops BKB and Hokori when the fight goes down. But the Gale Force is just that good. It just makes it so hard for them to decide on an area where they want to actually engage, and I think that smoke scouted him out. The Radiant Scan it's actually not hitting, which is interesting, but they're moving over now. Oh, okay. There you go.
Feels like he didn't react initially to that. Okay, they may still find the kill on a Flea, so they will get something, but that was a 5-man smoke that gets popped by a position 4 Wind Ranger. You are very much happy with that, and sure, said Wind Ranger is now down for 40 seconds, but D2 Hustlers have the chance to fall back, continue farming. They just got the BKB on Yuma, so this Morphling, I mean, he's ready to go for some of these longer duration fights. Esk has his BKB up as well, as we saw in the last engagement, so a lot of the vulnerabilities for these 2 main cores, who were just sort of the brunt of their team's damage, now get at least somewhat mitigated.
Yeah, and there is the split push play coming in from Esk. He doesn't necessarily want to be forced back to the base just yet, but at the same time, we could very well see a smoke coming up here. It's level 20 on Yuma. They gave him the tome. He's got a BKB. He is really afraid of absolutely no one right now. And with Flea alive, I can only imagine they're going to look for some revenge. Flea's even just keeping on the already captured outpost. He's a madman, but...
All right, Vitali's just able to sort of send that one back a little bit, but I like that instinct from Flea. Send him out there, try to start something. If you do get onto him, we're going to be coming up from behind you fast enough to keep that fight going, but it wasn't really meant to be. Meanwhile, I also want to point out Vitali, he got the shard for this spear. So he is going to be able to hit 2 units. You have the DOT too, but if you're buying the shard exclusively for that reason, then something is wrong with you. But he's going to be able to stun up too, which is kind of an issue in these fights because the arenas, for the most part, have been very much on point. It's just you have multiple targets that you want to hit up. So now if those heroes on Hustlers don't pop the BKBs, well, your entire sort of game plan could just be broken up pretty quickly. And now, speaking of breaking up the game plan a little bit, Zeus has a sight. So the Hex in this fight, if you don't get those BKBs out early, you could be punished so heavily with the Hex into the nuke damage.
Yeah, it's just going to be huge. If you can find that, it's no longer just El Misho who's able to set up the kill onto the Morphling. You now finally have your secondary playmaker, gets the pressure off the Rubik. Of course, he's still going to look for those opportunities, but I also think they've finally gotten the tool to kill Esk. If they can lead with the Hex onto him, okay.
Right.
Had to remnant there. It's a little bit awkward.
Look at El Misho. He got around into the back line. He was able to get off the lift, and that sets up Vitali in for the spear, but the Kraken Shell allows Monster to recover, drops down the Ravage, hitting onto 2 or 3. Zeus, meanwhile, did throw down the Sonic Wave as well. This is a very sort of broken up fight initially, but it looks like Hokori are going to regroup, bringing all their heroes together. They've taken down Flea and Monster. They're trying to get damage onto Yuma. Not able to finish him off, though, as Yuma waveforms into Suits and will take down that Queen of Pain. And now, if you're Hokori, what do? The arena's been used. The Wukong's command has been used. Your BKBs have been used. And they need to find something, and they will actually do so. Devi hanging out a little bit further to the south and hanging out for a little bit too long there. As they do manage to pick him off, that is going to sort of swing the numbers in their favor kill-wise. Fight recap, though, shows D2 Hustlers still come away with a little bit more gold than their opponents at the end of it.
Yeah, not just that, you got the cores out, and that's all that matters, but when these BKBs get used as early as they are because you're afraid of the Ravage, you're afraid of the Shackle coming out, Yuma just has a field day. He is so capable of killing everyone. At the same time, you have the Yules built up on the Ember Spirit, so this Orchid is not that same cleanup tool. That's where Suits being unable to find that Ember at the beginning of the fight with the Hex, it actually ended up really biting him back, because unfortunately, you lost Gardic on the initial bout. You lost him, and then you lost Devi a little bit later, but at the same time, you need to find this Ember, otherwise you're going to get cleaned up. Same with Yuma. Oh,
Gardic
nice
tried,
little kill.
looked for the
It's
TP
pretty.
out, but they're able to get him. Yeah, little two-man game between Monster and Flea, and now they want more. Eska's going to jump forward. Can he actually catch up to the Rubik right now? Misho's just going to look for the TP out, and if Esk
he
knew...
chained them. Yeah, you never know.
You go fishing, and wasn't able to get it that time, but now Zeus is TPing in. They want the fight to get the Hex down, but the Wind Run actually came out already, so trying to get away. Vitali says, no, absolutely not. Not letting him out of there. Drops the arena into the spear, and Flea does get taken out, but once again, teams at this point, it feels like these kills, I don't want to say they don't matter, but we're trading out supports at this stage on both sides, and everyone knows really it's going to come down to that next major team fight. So all of this is just sort of jockeying for position, maybe trying to play a strategic game with some of these respawns, because right now Hokori, they have a bit of a window, right? The Wind Ranger's not up for about 20 seconds. You don't have your arena for about a minute, but they could still try to make a move. As Vitali says, I don't need the arena, I'll push in. El Misho with a stolen Ravage, stunning up Esk, and they are going to be able to take him down. Monster, he blinked in, but he didn't use his own Ravage because the BKBs were still active. He could go for it now, but nope, no he can't. He's going to get hexed up instead. Wukong's command comes through. The Kraken Shell, though, will allow him to get it off. But at this point, D2 Hustlers, they're just running for their lives. Zeus comes in, Sonic Wave deployed, picks up both kills. And this fight looking a little bit rough. Yuma does find a pickup on the back line, and Esk, he actually bought back, so he's back into the game. Monster's going to buy back as well. They really do want this engagement. I'm not really sure there's a fight to be had here, though. It feels like Hokori are trying to back themselves out already. And I don't know that Hustlers can catch up at this stage. So some of those buybacks, I like the idea, but now they need, now they need this. They'll push into the Roche pit because you just bought back on a couple of your heroes and 2 of your cores.
It's free.
They need something. Vitali gets hit up. Searing Chains is there. Spear knocks Monster back. Yuma comes in, though. Shotgun combo. Not enough for the kill. And the Mars is walking away, but now ADRX, oh my god, he went in. He got Yuma. They hit him with the silence as well. The Mantis is going to immediately remove that, but he has no BKB, so they lift him up with the telekinesis, desperately trying to shift over to strength, but he's running out of mana and he's running out of time, as they will bring Yuma down. Vitali falls, though. Both heroes immediately buying back. This is turning into an absolute madhouse ET, but on the show, he forced Esk to sort of cancel that. He was trying to get himself out. But is this going to turn into any sort of secondary fight? There's so many buybacks being used, 3 on both sides. Boundless Strike, hitting up, Hex onto Divide, jumping in, quick and easy kill. Now they're onto Monster as well, and the Spear's going to knock him back. Gale Force attempt there. Actually, that's doing a lot of work, but it's not quite enough. Zeus jumps in, find the kill. Now they're on to Yuma. No, they're not. They're looking for Flea instead. They're not going to get anything, though, as the Shackle locks the Monkey King down, and Flea is just going to get out of there as fast as he can. Meanwhile, the Morph, he got hit by the Spear. Spear into Tree Cut, into really everything they've got. They've got the Morphling and Yuma. That was his buyback as well. He's down for about 2 minutes here, and well, Hokori, they win the fight. It really felt like that was 2 or 3 fights at that point, but they come out ahead. Now they need to take these objectives. Tier 2, going to be taken down in the top lane, and the Morphling cannot come back. They're going to go for the high ground push, and D2 Hustlers don't really have the numbers right now to defend this.
Yeah, and really, do you have your dancing shoes on, S? Can you cut any of these waves? Are you going to get them out of the base here? There's no way they go for the end after this tier 3. I think that is probably crazy, but they've also gone for this Rax as opposed to getting a free Roche, so I don't think they're really out of it. Nobody really pushes all too fast on Hokori's side. They don't have the really ultra carry in the Monkey King or the Queen of Pain, but I think they're going to get 2 for free. Might even get more.
ADRX, meanwhile, had the Abyssal Blade delivered out to him, so anyone who does try to step up and provide that lockdown could get stunned. Flea, though, he's not afraid. Goes in, gets the Shackle down. Esk jumping in. Searing Chains will be there. They're looking for the fight. Vitaly, though, throws down the arena, resetting everything. Flea's going to get taken down. Esk, meanwhile, pop the BKB, falls back. He's out, but Devi, he's just going to get absolutely annihilated. They will take him down. Both of those two supports, though, do have their buybacks, so they could rejoin the fight, but again, the Morphling is still dead. 30 seconds on the sideline, so Hokori, when you see them backing out, because they can't swing for the bottom lane. There's still a tier 2 there, and oh my goodness, yeah, they've got the DD rune. So you said earlier, they sort of gave up the free Roche. They might still get away with taking it.
Yeah, and really, it's just timed out. They used the maximum amount of time in this Morphling's dieback to get everything. They get 2 racks, they get the Roche, they didn't give up anyone or anything. This is just the advantage that they have now. It's going to need to be a miracle fight from D2 Hustlers. They need to get that same Shackle, except with both Monster and the Morphling alive, and then maybe they can find something. I think they just really overestimated their damage yet again. Without Yuma, they really just don't have anything on that instant. Everything is just being BKB'd, shrugged off, healed, and these are diebacks on Hokori as well, so we can definitely see this game flip in a matter of seconds, but at the same time, they are still just so reliant on Yuma. Yuma at the beginning of the fight as well, because if Yuma is forced into that strength shift, he just does nothing. He's thrown back into the rest of his team, who is back to that slow damage, and without buyback, you don't have that reset. You don't have a Satanic. I think if you can get the Scotty up, that'd be massive for them, just so he can stick on these heroes at a slightly bigger HP pool, but at the same time, they need to find someone at the beginning of these fights. They can't just wait. If ADRX gets on top of this tower, they're double Wukong ringed, and they don't have Glyph. This is probably just Megas if they don't react appropriately. No one's in the base, though.
Yeah, they're just going to go in for it, and the thing that's, I think, the most interesting right now, you mentioned if Yuma goes strength, he doesn't have the damage. Over on the other side, you see the Queen of Pain transitioning now into a little bit more of a right-click build. Went for the Bloodthorn, now into the Satanic, so whereas D2 Hustlers' damage is going to taper off in a longer fight, Hokori are building themselves up stronger and stronger. Meanwhile, there's going to be the jump in. Vitaly drops the arena. Monster tries to respond with the Ravage, but the BKBs had already been activated. Yuma, though, he's not dead just yet, but he still can't get out of the ring. They will be able to take him down, and without the buyback, I'm not really sure what more they can do here. Flea gets taken down as well. His buyback will be committed, but without the Morphling, do they have the damage to do this? They're certainly trying. They don't really have much of a choice, but it just feels like they don't have it. Zeus dropped low there, but there's going to be the Bloodthorn into the Satanic. Heals him right back up. And the defense for D2 Hustlers is starting to fall apart. Hokori are now going to push their way forward. They get the Hex into the Silence down. On it to that Ember Spirit. Sonic Wave deployed as well, and Esk is going to get taken down. And D2 Hustlers, no choice but to concede defeat. The G's will fly, and Hokori take the 1-1 split.
Yeah, that was really clean at the end there. Of course, just having a boundless strike onto Yuma where then he can't afford to start that morph already. If he starts that morph, then he doesn't do damage, then there isn't an opportunity for Monster to find the Ravage. You don't get that rebuttal if Yuma is immediately forced to play defensively, and unfortunately, I think also a few 2 items behind Hokori at that point that it was already going to be hard for them to find that picture-perfect fight, but the way that that all started, just being a simple boundless strike, was also just kind of a sad way to go out. But at the same time, that Roche fight, that control that Hokori exhibited there, where they just took everything. They took the high ground. They pushed everyone back. Everyone was so aware of the BKBs. It's a little bit sad for Flea because Flea was hitting so many 2-man shackles that were completely ignored because both of the people he's shackling pop their BKB and then they're out of stuns on Hustler's side. And then they're all in on Monster. And unfortunately, I think Hokori were too successful at finding where the tide was and then just dogpiling on top of him. Monster could never get all these heroes off of him. And when he's forced into these positions where he has to Ravage really to save his own life, because if he dies and he's not getting a Ravage off at all, there was never that moment where Monster dies early, buys back, gets into the fight. There just wasn't a position for him to really flex his hero. And Hokori just did a really good job, I think, of exhibiting how to tear down this tide. Because if you get on top of him, the enemy team is so reliant on that Ravage, you get him to use it in an unideal situation, there's nothing they can do. They were so in on this Shackle and this Ravage, and when they stopped landing, they didn't have that easy play. Not just that, Esk also had kind of a bad game going forward. I think a few too many deaths maybe in that bot lane just really slowed him up trying to get to that BKB timing. And then in similar fashion to game one, I think D2 Hustlers really stumbled on a lot of those power spikes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the Ember in particular, we mentioned at one point, I think he was 3 and 4, and he was playing in these fights as if he had a BKB before he had actually finished it off and was getting punished regardless of the outcome of the fight itself. So even in the ones C2 Hustlers were winning, his own advancement was getting sort of stunted a little bit with some of those deaths. And then, as you said, they were completely ready to handle the Tidehunter, which a lot of people already sort of see the Monkey King as a hero that can do that, but I think Vitaly on the Mars really helped put them over the top as well. You were not only trapped inside of the Wukong's command, but then the arena just made it so that no one can help you and you straight up can't leave. You are stuck and the Monkey King can hit you as much as he wants. So that little 2-man game in particular, absolutely fantastic. And then Sooth's 15, 1, and 14 on the Queen of Pain. So I feel like it took a little longer for the Queen of Pain to come online than we would normally like to see, but he avoided the deaths even when he wasn't able to find the early kills, and obviously that pays off.
Yeah, I think also D2 Hustlers punished. They picked a very similar strategy as they did in game one. They didn't adapt nearly as much to the draft as I think Hokori very did. And we also get to see why that Monkey King is banned out for a very good reason. It forces the map into a position where you're always kind of struggling. The Monkey King is never without a target to find his Jingu. In addition to that, we saw how brutal it was for Monster as soon as he got hounded. So Monkey King versus Tide. It's pretty bad. It's pretty bad.
Yeah, it's not a fun situation. But now that series comes to an end, 1-1 split, so both teams walk away with points. Don't really affect their position in the standings too heavily because of that. And now we will move on to our third and final series of the day. We started with a matchup from the lower section of the standings. We move on to the middle with this one. Now it's time for a matchup between two of the squads pretty much near the top. It's going to be 4 Zoomers versus Infamous for our final best of 2 of the day. So we are going to be stepping away for a little bit as we get that final series ready to go, but when we come back, it will be time for that game 1. So stick around, and we will be right back.